Well, my name is Javier Verdura, like I said. I'm a director of product design at Tesla Motors. So I'm here to talk about the Tesla as a company, what makes us unique, what makes us different, what makes us stand out from other companies. As you can imagine, in this day and age, trying to launch a car company is incredibly difficult. I think the last successful American car company to actually make money was Chrysler, and that was almost 100 years ago. So here we are, you know, as a new brand, and we're not even an internal combustion engine car, we're an electric car, so all the odds are stacked up against us. But we set out with the goal of to accelerate the world's transition to electric vehicles. That is the main goal of Tesla. And that guy, as was put earlier, Elon Musk, whom I work for, is the most inspiring person I've ever met in my life, and his energy and his passion for doing things the right way is just contagious, and that's what makes Tesla what it is today. His motivation and what he's really imparted in all of us at Tesla is to be able to not make money through a car company or not to make great designs only, is to make sure that everybody wants to do an electric car. And that is the reason why he's opened up all the patents for everybody. I don't know if you see it in the news. I don't know, have you guys seen this in the news lately? So, I mean, he doesn't just say these things. Literally in our office, we had a wall of patents. The day after that came out, there was a construction crew literally patching up the wall where the nails used to be that held up all the patents, and the wall is completely blank now. And the reason for that is because he wants everybody to be doing great electric cars. He wants to get rid of using fossil fuels and internal combustion engines. And that, to me, it's just amazing to have that sort of conviction for the planet. So the result of that happens to be a beautiful car, but that's not really the initial motivation. So Tesla started in 2003, and it was a fledgling startup company. And the first car that we launched with was the Roadster. And the Roadster was really meant to be a test platform for technology. So the car was a great car. It was an expensive car, but it really proved out what we wanted to do with the battery, with the electric motor, etc. And the car is still, there's a ton of them on the road. There's 3,500 of them. For the standards of Tesla at the time, that's a lot of cars, believe me. And it was a feat in itself just to get that many cars on the road with the resources that Tesla had. But the real story that propelled Tesla into mainstream was the Model S, which you see here, which I was lucky enough to drive this car, and it's amazing. 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds for an electric car, which, I mean, that's unheard of for, you know, a car this size if it had a gasoline engine, let alone electric. When Elon asked my direct boss, which is Franz von Holzhausen, to join Tesla, and he said, I want you to design a sedan. And Franz said, okay, you know, so where's your design team? He goes, I don't have one. So where's the clay sculpting team? It doesn't exist. Where's the design studio? We don't have one. So, and when do you want the car? I need the car in 2 years in the market. So that was Franz's challenge from Elon. And as time went on, they were designing the cars. Like, here's this beautiful sedan. He goes, oh, by the way, I needed to seat 7 people. And look the way it looks. Okay, let me go back to the drawing board. Here are 7 people. Now, it's got to look the way it used to look when you seated only 5 people. So there was a lot of challenges in designing this car, but the whole idea was not just to be the best electric car, which, as you all know, if you bought an electric car before Tesla existed, you were really compromising on aesthetics, on style, on performance. You were buying an electric car because you believed in driving a clean vehicle. You didn't drive it to have the coolest car on the block. And one of the things that we set out to do is we want to make the best car in the world, regardless whether it's an electric vehicle or an internal combustion engine vehicle. And by God, I mean, we did it. And so this is a result, basically, of the car. that effort. I've gotten a lot of questions today as to why does a car have so much space and how is that possible? This is basically what the car looks like if the body wasn't there, if the seats weren't there. You basically have a battery that goes from axle to axle in the width of the car. And the battery's about, this thick. And it's basically a whole bunch of AA batteries, essentially, put together. And the battery is very heavy and very expensive. So a lot of the cost of the car goes into the battery. A lot of the weight and the mass of the car is the battery, which makes the car the car handles amazingly well. So the center of gravity being so low with a big heavy battery makes the car what it is. The other thing is that, as you can see, above the battery, there's really nothing. So in most cars, you have the transmission tunnel that goes back and forth. You have the exhaust system. You have a fuel cell, which is typically 15, 16 gallons. That's a big volume to house in your car. We don't have any of that. We don't need any of that. There's no real dirty parts of the car. There's no oil to change. The really only things that wear out in the car are the brakes and the tires. People were also asking me about the motor, and talking a little more about the battery. This is how the Tesla compares, and I don't want to sound like a sales pitch, it's just something that we're really proud of, that we've been able to leapfrog the competition, and nobody's really being able to catch up to us in terms of the range, which is one of the limiting factors in people saying, I want to buy an electric vehicle, but I'm not going to buy it because I commute 30 miles each way, and where am I going to charge my car? Am I going to run out of power? So this is basically, the car that you see here has 265 miles of range for each charge, and the nearest competitor has in the 80s. And we really would love for other companies to just step up and be at the same level, so then everybody says, okay, I have choices to buy an electric car. It's not only Tesla. But the battery technology is what allows us to be at that level. And now that we've opened the patents to everybody, there's no reason why people cannot just go and do the same technology, apply the same technology to their cars. This is looking from the back of the car, and you can see this is what powers the car. There's a motor, there's an inverter, and that's pretty much it. You get all that acceleration, and what's interesting about driving a car with an electric motor is that when you have an internal combustion engine car, basically the torque curve is at an angle, so you get, the more the RPMs go up, the higher the torque, but it starts from 0 to the limit. In an electric motor, the torque is available instantly, so you feel the full 400 and some foot-pounds of torque instantly in the car, so you have that amazing rocket ship acceleration. I was driving from San Diego yesterday and I saw a Tesla on the road, and the license plate said Jet A in the back, so it was pretty cool. Jet A is where it goes in rockets. Which, by the way, if you don't know about Elon Musk, he also owns SpaceX, which sends rockets to orbit into the International Space Station. A little more about Model S and what makes it great is the amount of space. This is the third row we were talking about for the 6th and 7th passenger that Elon really wanted, and you really can't do this in any other car. To have a third row and facing with rear-facing seats, unless you had all that room to be able to store it away. So when you don't need it, you have all this space. And later on, we can open the car and we can take a look at the interior as well. This is something else that we really can't have in other cars, is have this big open space in the front, which you're going to open up the car. But to be able to put all this luggage, keep the second row available for 3 passengers, and then put 2 huge pieces of luggage in the front of the car where the engine would normally be in a regular car. So we designed the Model S. We continue to improve it every single day. I mean, there's a team of people that just keeps making this car better and better and better, because that's what Tesla's all about as well. It's just making the consumer experience fantastic for people that already bought the car. And we're just looking into the future as well. So the Model X is coming out early next year. So we're deep into it right now. And this is going to be a 7-passenger SUV, all-wheel drive. You notice that the doors are a little unusual. We call these the Falcon wings. And what this allows you to do is to, instead of stepping into the car, having to duck down, you're really just standing into the car and then sitting down, because the whole roof is open, and that allows a person that's 6'2" to stand inside the car. And the way the doors are hinged is pretty interesting. You would think, well, how are those doors going to open when you're parked in a mall with cars, a few inches from your car? They have a double hinge, so they first go up like this and then swing open. So you can have a car parked much closer than you would with regular doors, when you wouldn't be able to get out of your car. You could exit this car no problem. So this is the way it's going to be launched in 2015. This was one of the things this was a show car originally, and Falcon doors were part of the show car concept. And one of Elon's directives to us was to say those doors have to stay in the car, so making them feasible from a manufacturing point of view and a safety point of view, and even the simplest things as managing water as you open the door, snow, and figuring out how to manage that, those challenges. It's pretty difficult, but they're wearing it. I'm going to talk a little bit about our design studio. Tesla has 3 main facilities. One is the factory, which is in Fremont, which I'll get into in a second. The other one is the headquarters in Palo Alto. And then we have a design studio here in Los Angeles. Not too far away from here in Hawthorne, near the Hawthorne Airport, or right next to it. And in the design studio, we have about 125, 130 people that work there. And it's basically the spear of the tip of the spear for Tesla. That's where everything is born out of the design studio from a conceptual point of view. Model S was born there, Model X was born there, and everything that we do at Tesla starts at the design studio, and that's where I work. And out of all the people that work there, we have industrial designers, automotive included. We have engineers, we have fabricators, clay sculptors. There's some examples. I mean, everybody's seen, industrial design, automotive sketches. There's some examples of Model X and Model S concept sketches. So we have a team of interior exterior designers. What's interesting to me, and I think as we're talking about for people that are into design and the design process, is the process for designing an automobile, which was kind of new to me coming from my background in consumer products. And how this is not typical to Tesla necessarily, but I think it's worth talking about. Automotive design always starts out with a sketch, obviously, but when you get into 3D, you always go into a clay model. And whether you start with a quarter-scale clay model or a full-size clay model, that's the only way that you're going to get the designers and the clay sculptors to really put their hands on the car and get that emotion into the car that you really need to convey. And the great thing about clay is that you can add or take away from it. So every time that there's a clay review, the designers will come in and just take away clay and start playing with a beautiful, surface that was there before, and they're not afraid of just like hacking into it and just going crazy in the clay. So once the clay is reviewed, it gets 3D scanned. So the whole car is scanned with a 3D scanner. We have a whole team of 3D scanners. Believe it or not, they have a full-time job, and that's all they do is 3D scan clay. Once the scan is done, it gets passed on to digital modeling team, and that team is about 40 people currently. And all they do is take that data and they reverse engineer it and do what's called Class A surfaces, which are mathematically perfect surfaces for automotive use. And then that surface then is taken back and then gets milled on the clay car to match the latest data. So then you have a representation of the data in front of you in clay. And then that gets reviewed, and around it goes. And you could do that easily 30 times. I'm not kidding around. That process will take months and months and months until every surface is perfect, and to every millimeter of the car is just scrutinized to the nth degree. And to me, it's a fascinating process. And what's great is that data is also used for visualization. So we have huge screens in the studio where we can project the renderings, photorealistic renderings of the car, and you can actually stand next to the car like you were standing next to it with different colors, different wheels, etc. The studio engineering team is they do everything from the doors to the mirrors to, I mean, you name it. And we have a vehicle packaging and ergonomics team. And what these guys do is they set up like how easy it is to get in and out of the car, where the mirror should be, what the shape of the seat should be, how much headroom you're going to have, if you're going to hit your head on the A-pillar when you exit the car. All these things that we don't think about when we use our car as an everyday object. When you really get into the nitty-gritty of it, there's so many little finite details that had to be thought through before the car can be put into production. Aerodynamics is a huge part of what makes our car successful, because every percentage of drag that we add to the car or that we take away from the car means that we have extra range or not. So range is key with electric cars. So mass and drag are two huge factors that make range possible. So if we can make the car as slippery as possible, that means we can get more mileage out of it. To the point that when we specify the tires, the rolling resistance of the tires and the aero properties of the tires were able to give us a mile extra of range just by speccing different types of tires. So bringing the handles in when the car is driving, the shape of the mirrors, every little thing gave us 1 mile here, 1 mile there. Also taking weight out of the car makes a huge difference in range. So all those are the things that we consider when making an electric car. The factory is located in Fremont, California, just very close to San Jose in the Bay Area. And it's a 5.5 million square foot factory that was actually purchased from Toyota. It used to be the NUMMI factory. And it was a joint venture originally with GM and Toyota. And they weren't using it anymore, and they sold it to Elon. And we've since repurposed the factory to manufacture this car. And the factory was bought and refurbished specifically to make the Model S. And there's a lot of robots in the factory, and it's really cool to see all the robots welding the cars and painting the cars and everything. And this factory is also going to be used to make the Model X and subsequently our next car, the Gen 3. But that factory, I believe, when I started 2 years ago, I'm sorry, just to give you a sense of how we're growing, I think there was about 3,000 employees, including all the factory workers. Today we're about 8,200 employees. So in 2 years we've almost tripled our size. The car was started production in June of 2012. And I remember when we were the first week of production, we got 5 cars done in 1 week, and everybody was jumping up and down for joy because, oh my God, 5 cars, that's incredible. And then the next week it was, 12 cars, and the next week it was 20, and it was such a feat. Like, okay, one day we're going to be up to 100 cars a week. And so now we're manufacturing be close to 30,000 cars per year. And to think where it started and what a struggle it was. And all the designers were up at the factory, like, helping out with the car. I'm not kidding around. It was amazing. Everybody was at the factory helping get these cars out the door. And I think that's what makes a company like Tesla special too. Is like just because you have a role doesn't mean that that's the role you stick to. It's like, okay, we need you here, and if you have that ability, you got to be able to help out. And everybody just rolls up their sleeves, and it's like one big family. It's really fantastic. All right, the supercharger network is really important. It's really important to talk about this. The supercharger network was, again, another brilliant idea that Elon had. It's not just an idea, but it's the concept that the main barrier to purchasing an electric car, like I said before, is people having range anxiety. It's kind of like a term that kind of surfaced in the last few years. There's an anxiety that, like, where am I going to stop? If I have a gasoline car, I can just stop in any corner and fill up my tank and be on my way. I'm not going to run out of gas. I won't be stranded. With an electric car, where am I going to charge it? Okay, if I can find some plug to plug in my car, I'm going to be there for hours. So what he said is, like, we have to build a network of places where you can charge a car and put 170 miles of range in 30 minutes. And it's a little bit faster than that, actually. And just to give you a sense of how fast that is, if you were to plug this into like a 240 volt outlet in your house, you might be able to get about 20 to 30 miles per hour of charge in your car. So when you get home and you have a 240 outlet in your garage, you can probably fill it up overnight, if you're lucky. With this, you can put almost a full charge in an hour, which is astonishing. So not only that, but these places are self-funded by Tesla. So imagine if when Henry Ford started doing mass production of cars, if he said, oh, by the way, I'm going to put the gas stations in myself, and I'm going to pay for all the gas stations, and I'm going to give the gas away for free. That's what we're doing, and it's crazy, but that's the mentality of Elon. You know, he says, I'm going to make people buy electric cars because that's the best thing for the planet, and I'm going to provide the energy for free. So you can go to any supercharger station around the world where we have them, and we're growing them super fast. This is what we have right now. So you can actually go across the country, which we've already done. We broke the world record for an electric car going across the country, and we did it in 73 hours. We started in LA and ended up in New York, and we stopped at every supercharger along the way. It doesn't cost a dime, so anybody can travel across the country for free if they have a Tesla. This is where we're going. Again, sorry, it's a little. This is how it's going to be at the end of the year, and this is what's planned for the end of 2015. So you won't be able to. You'd be hard pressed to not be able to go somewhere in the country, you know, where there's decent population, anyways, without running into a supercharger. And really, the whole point is that there's no excuses not to drive an electric car. That's the main idea behind the supercharger. So one of my favorite Elon quotes is, free charging on pure sunlight for life. So if you own a Tesla, you're going to get free charging for the rest of your life. And pure sunlight is because there's solar panels on top of the supercharger stations that are, you know, they're powered by the sun. And obviously that doesn't last all day if there's a bunch of people charging, but for the most part, it works. So yeah, the superchargers are a huge part of what makes us special, and to me, it's just an amazing point of view for how to treat customers. The other part of the equation is we don't sell the cars in regular dealerships, and we don't have like high pressure sales teams that are like, oh, let me get you into this car or anything like that. Our stores, and I'm sure you all have seen the stores here in the 3rd Street Promenade, but we have about 120 stores worldwide, and every week seems like we're adding a new one. This next one I think is the store in London that opened a couple months ago because we just launched the right-hand drive car. But this is a typical setting, you know, we're next to like Calvin Klein jeans store and Abercrombie & Fitch or whatever. And when do you ever see a car store in that sort of environment? You see an Apple store, you see, you know, whatever. But when people walk in there, it's not a matter of being sold a car, it's being educated about the technology. So people walk in because they're curious, like, oh, what is this in the mall? And then when they get there, there's a person saying, you want to learn about Tesla? He goes, yeah, you know, so then they start explaining how to go electric, what it's about the supercharging system, how far you're going to go. Depending on where you live in the country, it tells you what your carbon footprint is. They'll talk about that depending whether your electricity comes from coal, whether it comes from nuclear energy, whether it comes from gas. So if you live in West Virginia, for example, or Kentucky, where electricity is 98% derived from coal, then the carbon footprint of this car is not as low as in a place where nuclear energy is used to generate electricity. And we're completely transparent about that. We're not saying, oh, this car is completely green. You know, it doesn't have any emissions, but the electricity comes from somewhere. And we are just telling people the truth about, you know, where electricity comes from depending on where you live. It also tells you if you drive to work 200 miles each way, probably not the car for you either, you know, unless you have a way to charge your car at work. So it's more of an educational source than a sales source for us. And a lot of states have been fighting us, you know, that we don't have a dealership network and we have to be part of the dealer associations. But, you know, we've been able to be successful in fighting the people that don't want us to be selling cars this way. And then once you learn about Tesla and you learn about the Model S, then you can go to the website, and that's really how you buy your car. You don't buy your car by writing a check in front of somebody, really. You go to the website and you order your car online, and you configure the whole car, what kind of wheels you want, what kind of the color of the interior, and then the car is made for you. And it takes about 6 to 7 weeks to have the car made. And they say, okay, your car is being built, you know, starting tomorrow, and it'll take this long, and then you'll get your car. One of the things that's amazing as well about Tesla is that we don't do any advertising at all, and that we have no advertising budget. We don't put ads in magazines. We don't have commercials. But if you go online on YouTube and just type in Tesla videos, it's amazing what people that love the brand and love the cars do online. And this is a video that is one of my favorite ones, and it just speaks to like the love that people have for their cars. And this was done 100%. Like, we've never done a video, just so to be clear. This was done 100% by a Model S owner, just because he wanted to tell the world like how he felt about the car.
On January 3rd, the Knapp family took a road trip in their new all-electric Tesla. Using free solar-powered superchargers all the way. A road trip completely sponsored by the power of the sun. Was accept the gift of light. The Tesla Model S, Motor Trend's Car of the Year. A car that may lead other cars in no longer taking from the earth, but accepting from the sun untold memories per gallon of light.
So, I mean, you can't, well, I guess you can't pay publicity like that, but it would cost a lot of money. But the production quality of the video, just the passion that went into doing something like this, I'm sure the money that went into it, to me it's amazing. So that's what I had in terms of information. I want to save quite some time. I'm sure people have questions. I wanted to let people just go over the car and take a look at it and see if you have any questions about it, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Yes?
The typical automotive industry redesign is The typical automotive industry redesign is 4 to 5 years on models. Do you have any idea of what's going to happen with Tesla 4 or 5 years down the road? Are you going to redesign the body?
I'm pausing because I don't know if I can answer that without giving away anything. Our roadmap right now is to have the Model S stay in production until, keeping it fresh. Like you said, 4 or 5 years is a good span for a typical car company like BMW, Mercedes, Porsche, Audi, with our competitors. And then we're going to continue to leapfrog that, probably while keeping the car. So when the Model X comes out, that's going to refresh the brand, not necessarily the car. And then the Gen 3, which is our low-cost car, which I really didn't talk about too much, but that's a car that we're working on now that is going to be a $35,000 car. That's going to be a competitor to like the A4, the 3 Series BMW. Because this car as it stands right now, that's I think like $110,000. You can get it for 70, bare bones, which is still a pretty nice car, but that's not a car for everybody. So what we're trying to do right now is get into a mass market car that everybody can afford, most people can afford. I'm sure everybody in this room can afford. So that's the idea. But once this car starts to get a little tired, we're going to continue to refresh the Model S. It's not going to go away.
Can you talk a little bit about what the design team does on the interiors for the interface? Because obviously the exterior has a lot of design into it with the navigation and all the displays and controls also do.
So the question is what they do, or?
A little about the process. Do they work with the industrial designers, or is it separate, or
Yeah, they're part of the design umbrella, and they're actually based up north in Palo Alto. And it's the user interface team it's about five people, and a lot of them came from Apple, not surprisingly. And they do the whole interface design, and it is a unique interface. I mean, with the big touchscreen and that controls mostly everything in the car. I think the two only physical buttons in the car are the hazard button and the button that opens the glove box. Everything else is controlled through that screen, so it is a huge part of the design, you're right. And they are a little bit separate from my group here in LA. But they run things through us, and we have a monthly meeting when they have new technologies that they want to run by us and how we can work together more closely. But their world is so almost 2D compared to what we're doing that we don't get to collaborate with them too much. But what's interesting about the interior is that one of the uphill battles that we had, and I don't get to talk about this too much, but if you take a look at an S-Class Mercedes-Benz, for example, and look at the interior of that car, and if you guys are familiar with it or just can imagine it, it's very luxurious and opulent almost. And when people see our car, it's like, wait, it's the same kind of money as a Mercedes S-Class. It doesn't have all the chrome, and it doesn't have like the huge plush seats, and it doesn't have all the bling that an S-Class has. And the way we try to educate people, and it's really difficult, is like, to us a Mercedes is like when somebody buys a big mansion and has like drapes and big couches and like just like Persian rugs, and our car is like a mid-century modern house with like Eames furniture and just super minimal. One doesn't cost more than the other one, or probably the mid-century costs more than the other house I described, that people associate luxury with the first one. So what we're trying to do is say, okay, this is as premium as what you see in the Mercedes S-Class, but it's just a matter of how you perceive it. And we're not going to change, to be more like the Mercedes, but it's an uphill battle for us to be more on the mid-century modern mentality with interior.
Hi, Vincent Bradley. So you gave good insight into kind of the iterative process with 3D and clay and all that, but how are decisions actually made? Meaning, what inspires you guys, and who decides, oh, that looks cool versus, oh, that looks cool, and how do you actually get to this beautiful vehicle from a block of clay at the beginning?
Right. Believe it or not, most of the decision making comes from Elon. So we have weekly reviews with him, and he has a great eye for design, and his title is product architect as well as CEO. So he'll just direct us and say, the fenders have to be wider, or this is not good, we gotta just reapproach this. And if you say it's not possible to do, then possible, and he's like, well, figure it out, let's do it. So a lot of the decisions come from that, but of course we have to present to him something that has a solid foundation for him to react to. But he's very much involved in the everyday thing. Like, he knows everything that went into this car. Like, he knows every detail of it and why it is what it is. It's not just, we can't just go off and do it without him giving his blessing. So a lot of the decision making comes from him, for sure.
Hi, I have a question back here. I know I'm small. It's back to your right, actually. Hi. Great talk, great car. One question. What types of considerations did you have to make in terms of design when accounting for safety issues, when you're putting two seats in the back and dealing with issues of rear ending, and you said you also picked a lightweight material, so it seems like that could be a scary problem?
Yep.
What did you have to overcome when you were testing impact issues and putting passengers in the line of danger?
Yep, great question. So we had that conundrum of how do we have the lightest car possible, what we have to do, which the car is made of aluminum, which most cars are made of steel, but this is an all aluminum car because it's lighter. But it's also not as durable in an accident, I guess you could say. And then when you put two passengers in the back, as you just pointed out, that also puts the onus on the back end to be extra strong to make sure that nothing happens to those passengers. With no engine in the front, you also have no mast there to protect the occupants in the car. So all those things have to be considered. So the engineering team that did the chassis and the crush structures and everything had to be extremely creative. And that's one of those things when I said, to do the impossible and say that can't be done because nobody's ever done it before, it's like, okay, well, we have to get it done because nobody's done it before. That's the theory behind everything that we do. And everybody that works at Tesla has to learn that really fast, that you really cannot say no to anything, you have to just figure it out. So, at the end of the day, the structure of the car is designed in such a way that it's one of the strongest cars in the world in terms of crashworthiness. When they tested the National Highway Safety Association, when they tested this car and it got 5 stars, what was amazing is that they have a machine that actually like tries to find the tilt angle of a car before it rolls over. And since the car has so much mass at the low center of gravity, the machine could not reach a high enough point to roll the car over. So they could not test that because they couldn't roll the car over. There wasn't a testing equipment in their arsenal. And then they have another machine that tests when a car actually rolls over and how much crush force the car takes when it's upside down. So that machine starts crushing a car in this direction. The machine actually broke. And I mean, it sounds like a joke, but it's not. I mean, that machine broke before the car actually buckled in any way, shape, or form. And the car is just like, it's just scarily built. I mean, with all this stuff that we had to deal with, the fact that it passes all those things was just testament to not design, but just engineering itself. And I've seen, unfortunately, I mean, there's accidents happen all the time, but I've seen some accidents where Teslas have been involved against other cars. And not to make light of it, but I mean, it's almost dangerous to be a passenger in another car because this car just like cuts through another car like it's butter. Like it was a 5 Series that just like was cut in half, and the Tesla went right through it because it was so strong against it. And it looked like it hadn't been in an accident, and it was ridiculous. This other guy, like I think it happened in Mexico, one of the fires that we got the press about. But he went. It was reported to be like 100 miles an hour, 90 miles an hour through a cinder block wall, and then and the guy walked away like nothing happened. So that was one of the biggest challenges for sure. So great question in terms of the crashworthiness of the car. Yes.
Great presentation.
Thanks.
Fascinating. Obviously, you're a designer, not an engineer, and I would have to assume that the patents that have been opened up have more to do with engineering and design, so they can actually have people emulate Tesla and not hate Tesla.
Correct.
Okay, so it's such a profound difference in range between the Tesla and the nearest competitor, and since this is not classified anymore, can you give us a clue as to what is the salient difference? What is the secret that Tesla has been able to tap into that gives them that range that nobody else has to?
I don't know exactly, but if I knew exactly, I don't know if I could tell you either, even though it's public knowledge. I know it is. But I couldn't answer that question. Like you said, I'm a designer, and I'm not. There's a whole team that just does the powertrain and the batteries that know all that stuff. There's like all these formulas, and there's like, yeah, it's beyond me. I'm not that smart.
Quick question back here.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about what your process was like before you came to Tesla, and maybe how it differs now that you're at Tesla? If there are any big aha moments or things that you feel are truly unique about the process?
Wow, that's a good question. I think the processes of design is generally the same, where you have an iterative process, where you have a bunch of ideas, which we still do at Tesla in my previous job as well, and I'm sure Ravi can attest to that as well. You just come and start out with a big range of ideas that are more ranging from evolutionary to revolutionary, and then you start like picking out the directions that make more sense, and then start refining those until you come up with 2 or 3 solutions that are great, and then you test those and you put them through the gauntlet and then come up with one idea. But the one thing that I used to do quite a bit was consumer testing, and have consumers assist you in designing because they're the ones that are using the products. And that's one thing that we don't do at Tesla, and it's something that Elon doesn't believe in. So if the biggest difference I would say is I won't say the lack of consumer testing, but the fact that we don't use focus groups, or we think that consumers don't know what they don't know. So that's what we don't do, consumer testing. But I think that's the biggest difference.
You talked about the design goals on the Model S as far as seating 7 people,
Mhm.
storage space. What are the design goals with the Model X?
The Model X also seating 7 people, but the difference in this car is that we can put up to 12-year-old kids in the back, but the Model X is 7 adults, and the rear seats have to be as comfortable as the third row seats, as comfortable as the rest of the car. That was one of the key things. The Falcon doors was a big part of it. One of the things that we're battling with Model X is just like with this car, is just keeping the weight down and making sure we have the same range as what this car has.
Do you think the Falcon doors affect the functionality of the car?
No, it enhances the functionality. That's the only reason they exist, really, is to make the car better in terms of functionality.
Aren't you compromising the roof space for a roof rack, or what a SUV usually use for, or is it not an SUV?
It's an SUV for sure, and we have a workaround for the roof rack for sure, and then there's all kinds of sensors in the doors, so that if you're in a low garage, it opens to a certain point, but then the secondary hinge takes over, so you still, in the worst case scenario, you're at the same at parity with a regular car, where you have the cant rail, so you're still having to climb into a regular car. So at the worst case, you're at that same position. In best case, you're opening up the whole car. So functionality is enhanced. I mean, we're not doing it just for show or for flash. We're doing it because it actually makes people's lives better. So yeah.
Will everyone please wait for the mic to get to them so that everyone can hear the question?
Hey, a question from back right of the room by the door. Love the talk here. It's obvious that Tesla has a very successful recipe. I'm curious to know what things, strategies, tactics done at Tesla are transferable to launching new disruptive technology or products in other industries, other companies.
Pretty difficult question. I'm not sure how to answer that one without giving away too much, but
I can give you another question if you don't want to answer that.
Okay, yeah. Let's do
all
that.
right, so maybe an easier question.
Okay.
But maybe also controversial. So I love the environmental mission of Elon and Tesla, and I'm curious to know what type of direct or indirect feedback you're getting from, say, oil companies, or what kind of resistance you may be getting from government or established players that are set to lose if Tesla and electric cars become massively successful?
Well, you said it was easier. I think if we had any lashback from like oil companies, I don't know if we would know about it. You know what I mean? Like some people are saying that some of the negative press we get sometimes is like things done on purpose to hurt us, that oil companies are doing, or whatever. But I don't think that's the case. You know, it's we haven't heard anything directly. You know, it's. And in terms of the government, you know, we run into issues where, like in New Jersey, was I think the reason why I can hear it wasn't really an environmental thing, but it's just, you know, us against the New Jersey government for selling cars, because the dealer associations were more in the pocket of the incumbent government, and we had to fight that battle. But we haven't really run into environmental issues with government, or has been an issue there.
Hi, I had a question actually about, sorry, right back here, about the supercharger network and design on that. Can you just maybe speak a little bit to kind of the design process in terms of re-looking at the kind of whole system of filling up a car, and how maybe some of the challenges that you guys went through in designing that experience as opposed to the traditional gas filling experience?
Yeah, one of the things that one of the biggest challenges I think that we had to overcome It's not so much the industrial design of the part. I mean, we just had to make that one look, I think, interesting and a little futuristic, but not too alien that people are like, how do I use this? So it still had to have some sort of gas station, I don't want to call it a gas station look, but you know, the same kind of language. That's what you would say, you grab something and plug it into your car, whether it's a nozzle or it's the connector itself. But the biggest challenge really is that you're in a gas station, you're there for 5 minutes. That's how long it takes to fill up a 20-gallon tank. And you're just standing there, you're looking at your phone if you want to, and then you're done, and you're away. If you want to spend 25, 30 minutes there, what are you going to do? So we have to find sites where there was like a place to get a cup of coffee, and it's not like we're putting our superchargers, you know, in the same location as a AMP or a little mini mart. It's our own separate location, and we're counting on the area around it to have a Starbucks or to have a fast food restaurant or whatever it might be. So that's challenging, and the location has to be just right so that it's convenient when you're traveling and when you're in town. So I think it's more of a real estate challenge than a design challenge. The other challenge is more of a social challenge. If people will park their cars and in a supercharger, and if they're traveling, for example, they'll park it, charge it, plug in their car, and then go to a restaurant nearby, and they'll be having dinner for a couple hours. The car's been done for an hour, and there might be 3 cars waiting to charge their cars. And I think there's got to be like a new sort of like social order that has to be established as to some sort of etiquette as to how to let people know that. So we're trying to figure that out as well. Maybe we do it through cell phones so that the different Teslas can talk to each other and say, okay, if your car is done, text me to this number or something, you know. But that's one of the challenges, which is more of a social challenge. Whoever has a microphone, I don't want to pick.
Hello? Anyone else? Okay.
Oh, hi.
Hi. First off, thank you for the presentation. It's been fantastic just watching and fun. I think what you mentioned was pretty much the wellspring for this company is the idea of sustainability and challenging some of the major problems as a society that we face, such as sustainability. I know you spoke to great lengths about kind of energy consumption over the lifetime, but I was just curious about the other aspects of sustainability as far as, you know, planned obsolescence, new models coming out, people just want to get the new style that are coming out. And not to say that you're going to change how people think, but that and also the energy consumption in the manufacturing of the car, because I would argue a 30-year-old Honda Civic, you know, may be more efficient if it's still on the road as opposed to manufacturing that new car. So just in the grand scheme of things, I know it's a for-profit company and whatnot, but yeah. If there's any thought that's gone into those processes.
Yeah, there is, but honestly, the main concern is getting the cars on the road, again, to promote the use of electric mobility. The fact that the cars are made of aluminum, I mean, it's a huge plus as well. The lithium batteries, they last longer, basically. There's no really easy answer for that, because we're not trying to change how people buy cars necessarily in terms of like how long they will last for them, or like them saying I'm going to keep my car for 30 years, you know, and which is kind of what you're suggesting in terms of like a 30-year-old Honda. Sure, you know, now it's amortized, its energy use over so many years. But we're at the point right now where we're just trying to build the company out rather than work through that issue.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for the presentation, Buddy. So quick question, as far as product design or product changes, how long does it take to hit production? What is that turnaround time whenever you make a new product change or a new product design?
Product design is in the car or?
The car, anything as far as changes in the design.
It varies. It varies depending on what we're talking about. A new car itself, like to design, engineer, and tool up and start manufacturing of a new car, it's a solid 3 years, which is much faster than a lot of companies are doing. But we have, you know, running changes in the car that we work on that could take, 6 to 7 months. And there's a lot of things in the car that we keep evolving and improving on. But like somebody was saying before, like each part of the car is a different product, so each one has different lead times and life cycles. But yeah, that's about right.
We're in the electric motorcycle industry, and there are a lot of people that have announced vehicles that are really late. Tesla seems to have hit a lot of its targets, or relatively, at least they've sent out production cars. What do you think is special about Tesla versus other people trying to make EVs that are road ready?
I think it's the no compromise. I think that's the crux of the matter there. It's the fact that if you were to just drive that car and look at the specs and look at the car itself and say that that's an internal combustion engine car, you'd be pretty psyched. Like, oh my God, yeah, 3.7 seconds, 0 to 60, check, handles like a dream, great, fits my luggage and my family, fantastic. But the fact that then it's electric, that means that you're not giving anything up. You're actually like buying the best car you can possibly buy, and you're buying an electric car. That I think is just what makes it special. Right? Then that's what Elon set out. It's like, I want a car that has 0 compromises at all. So that's what makes it different.
Should we take one more question, and then we're probably getting ready for a drink. One last question.
Whatever, it's fine.
What would you say Tesla's biggest challenge is going forward?
I would say is the production of batteries. I think if we keep building the cars at the rate that we're going, including Model X and Gen 3, we'd be consuming the majority of the production of lithium-ion batteries in the world. So us making our own company, our own factory for producing our own batteries is our biggest challenge. And it's not a challenge, it's gonna happen, it's a reality, but that's something we have to recognize as, okay, if we're gonna continue growing at this rate, we have to make our own batteries, not buy them from somebody else. I think that's the biggest challenge. The supercharging network is a challenge as well, it's keeping building that network, and each station costs a lot of money. And again, we're funding it ourselves. Everything comes from Tesla money, so that's another big challenge.
Okay, I have one last question.
Yes.
Since I got the mic, how great is it to be to come out of consulting and end up at the forefront of a design group at a company like Tesla? I don't know if there's any other companies like Tesla, but to be at Tesla, how is it for you?
It's amazing, it really is. I mean, I feel like I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I had a great career doing what I was doing and loving every minute of what I was doing. And when I got a call to move to LA and work at Tesla, it was, I couldn't ask for anything more, really. I feel like the luckiest guy in the world. And it hasn't disappointed. It's been incredibly challenging from, the expectations are so incredibly high of every employee there. And sometimes you're put in the spotlight a little more than other people. And the pressure is extremely high, but if you love what you do, I mean, then you just wake up in the morning just ready to take it, So it's been great.
Well, thank you so much, Javier.
Thank you.
Thank you.